And we are back for prepping for winter with the Arianna sample chapter. When we last left Arianna, she had just left the Water Gardens to begin a quest to go see Aegon in the Stormlands. She has with her 6 new companions, including her ex-lover and sworn shield, Damon Sand, a raven tender named Feathers, Ilaria Sand's daughter, Elia Sand, along with 2 knights named Joss Hood and Garibald Shells, as well as the daughter of the treasurer, Jane Ladybright. And now let's continue. Only Sir Gerald Dane had escaped unscathed. Darkstar. If Myrcella's horse had not shied at the last instant, his longsword would have opened her from chest to waist, instead just taking off her ear. Dane was her most grievous sin, the one she had most regretted. With one stroke of his sword, he had changed her botched plot into something foul and bloody. If the gods were good, by now Obara Sand had treed him in his mountain fastness and put an end to him. So Arianna clearly believes that Darkstar is the one that cut Myrcella, or whichever girl was in the desert. However, Arianna didn't see the events and had no opportunity to talk to her friends about it. She is relying solely on the word of Doran, who says Darkstar is guilty, even though he also admits that no one saw what happened. The immediate jump to Darkstar's guilt with no evidence makes the opposite quite likely. Darkstar is probably innocent. And it should be noted that the Sand Snakes thought the idea of Darkstar's guilt absurd. If not Darkstar, though, the only other possible suspects are Dre and Silva. Garen and Aerys were away from Myrcella at the time. I lean towards Dre as he was the likely mole, and if Dre was guilty of both being the mole and cutting Myrcella, that means Doran wanted Myrcella cut and Darkstar framed. Anyway, as we are told back in the Watcher chapter, Balon Swan, Ariohota, and Obara are sent off to High Hermitage to kill Darkstar. Whether Balon Swan kills Darkstar or Darkstar kills Balon Swan, the end result cannot be good for relations between the Crown and House Dane. The Danes are stony Dornish and have not been part of any of Doran or Oberyn's activities so far. She had said as much to Damon Sand that first night as they made camp. "Be careful what you pray for, princess," he replied. Darkstar could put an end to Lady Obara just as easily. She has Ariohota with her. Prince Doran's captain of guards had dispatched Sir Aerys Oakheart with a single blow, though the Kingsguard were supposed to be the finest knights in all the realm. No man can stand against Hota. Is that what Darkstar is? A man? Sir Damon grimaced. A man would not have done what he did to Princess Myrcella. Sir Gerald is more a viper than your uncle ever was. Prince Oberyn could see he was poison. He said so more than once. It's just a pity that he never got around to killing him. Now, I will say that reports on the character of Darkstar are a bit contradictory. In the Watcher chapter, Arianna claims that Aerys Oakheart was slain by Darkstar, and all 3 Sand Snakes look at each other baffled and think the story is ridiculous. Now, it's uncertain why the story is so unbelievable. Is it because Darkstar couldn't kill Sir Aerys, or is it because Darkstar wouldn't kill Sir Aerys? With regard to skill, we have every indication that Darkstar is a good fighter. In the Queenmaker chapter, Arianna seems to believe that Darkstar's skill rivals Aerys's, and Darkstar is unintimidated by Aerys and even dismissive of the legendary Arthur Dane. And here Damon Sand clearly believes that Darkstar could beat Obara, and even implies that he would have a chance against Ariohota. So at least based on reputation, it seems completely believable that Darkstar could defeat Sir Aerys. So it seems that the Sand Snakes are saying that Darkstar wouldn't kill Sir Aerys, not that he couldn't kill Sir Aerys. That it's not in his character to do so. Yet here Damon Sand says Darkstar is not a man but a viper, and that Oberyn repeatedly said that he was poison. Now Damon's opinion is understandable as he thinks Darkstar cut Myrcella, but the larger mystery is why Oberyn thought he was poison. Anyway, Ariohota is accompanying Balon Swan and Obara on their mission, and thus it's going to be Ariohota's point of view that next runs into Darkstar. Poison, thought Arianna. Yes. Pretty poison, though. That was how he'd fooled her. Gerald Dane was hard and cruel, but so fair to look upon that the princess had not believed half the tales she'd heard of him. Pretty boys had ever been her weakness, particularly the ones who were dark and dangerous as well. That was before, when I was just a girl, she told herself. I'm a woman now, my father's daughter. I have learned that lesson. Now it's interesting that Darkstar is compared to Oberyn, and then we go right into how Arianna is greatly attracted to Darkstar. Keep in mind, in the Queenmaker chapter, we find out that Arianna used to fantasize sexually about Oberyn. Even in the description of Darkstar, we see the similarities to Oberyn. Hard and cruel, dark and dangerous. I do wonder what were in the tales Arianna heard about Darkstar. Did they describe him as hard and cruel? If so, why did she choose him? And if so, why did the Sand Snakes not believe that he would kill Aerys Oakheart? I also wonder why so much time is being spent in our story on describing Arianna's type. She likes men like Oberyn and Darkstar, but she's only so-so on men like Aerys Oakheart. So what is she likely to make of Aegon? He may be pretty, but I certainly wouldn't call him hard and cruel or dark and dangerous. Come break of day, they were off again. Elia Sand led the way, her black braid flying behind her as she raced across the dry, cracked plains and up into the hills. The girl was mad for horses, which might be why so often she smelled like one, to the despair of her mother. Sometimes Arianna felt sorry for Elia. 4 girls, and every one of them her father's daughter. So an unusual amount of time is dedicated to developing the character of Elia Sand, while almost none is given to, say, Jane Ladybright, Joss Hood, Garibald Shells, and Feathers. Elia Sand is the classic George R. Martin strong female tomboy in the same vein as Arya and Asha. And of course, her love of horses reminds us of Lyanna. It should be noted that Elia Sand is about the same age as Lyanna Stark when she attended the tourney at Harrenhal. Now interestingly, in the last paragraph, Arianna stated that she was her father's daughter, and now she's stating that Elia is her father's daughter. So we have the daughters of Doran and Oberyn meeting the supposed son of Elia. But of course we know that Arianna is wrong about her assessment of at least herself. She's not her father's daughter. She's nothing like Doran. She's not calculating and she's not cautious. Now she's attempting to be more obedient, but that's nothing like Doran either. And so because Arianna is so wrong about the assessment of herself, I'm suspicious about her assessment of Elia being like her father. Yes, she is indeed strong and likes horses, but is she really her father's daughter? Or is she her mother's daughter? Again, there is no reason for Ellaria to have allowed Elia on this trip, and yet here she is. I remain suspicious. The rest of the party kept a more sedate pace. The princess found herself riding beside Sir Damon, remembering other rides when they were younger, rides that often ended in embraces. When she found herself stealing glances at him, tall and gallant in the saddle, Arianna reminded herself that she was heir to Dorne, and him no more than her shield. And so we are once again reminded of Arianna's romance with Damon Sand. It is clear that Arianna still has some feelings for Damon, which again highlight how odd and disruptive it is for Damon to be on this trip. "Tell me what you know of this John Connington," she commanded. "He's dead," said Damon Sand. "He died in the Disputed Lands. Of drink, I've heard it said. So a dead drunk leads this army. Perhaps this John Connington is the son of that one. Or just some clever sellsword who has taken on a dead man's name. Or he never died at all. Could Connington have been pretending to be dead all of these years? That would require patience worthy of her father." The thought made Arianna uneasy. Treating with a man that subtle could be perilous. So oddly, Damon Sand is quite sure John Con is a fake. And Damon's certainty is based only on rumor. Of course, we know that Damon is wrong, and that John Con is in fact real. Keep in mind, this mission is supposedly to learn the truth, yet Damon is disrupting things and introducing bias. So Doran has placed on this mission Arianna's ex-boyfriend, who is now undermining the mission before it's even really begun. It's again as if Doran wants things to fail. Now Arianna makes an interesting statement that the subtlety and patience of Jon Con rivals her father. Of course, Aegon's return is not really Jon Con's doing, it's Varys and Illyrio's. Varys and Illyrio rival Doran. And I'm reminded back in A Game of Thrones that Varys believed that at one time he was playing a game for 2 players. I do wonder who the other player was. Was it Doran? Was the game a Rhoynish player against a Valyrian player? Of course, there are quite a few other possibilities of who the other player might be, such as Bloodraven or Quaithe. What was he like before he died? I was a boy at God's grace when he was sent into exile. I never knew the man. Then tell me what you've heard of him from others. As my princess commands, Connington was Lord of Griffin's Roost when Griffin's Roost was still a lordship worth the having. Prince Rhaegar's squire, or one of them, later Prince Rhaegar's friend and companion. The Mad King named him Hand during Robert's rebellion, but he was defeated at Stony Sept in the Battle of the Bells, and Robert slipped away. King Aerys was wroth and sent Connington into exile. There he died. Or not. Prince Doran had told her all of that. There must be more. So Damon is clearly being difficult here. Before he volunteered information that was only rumor, that happened to be false, and now when asked for more, he refuses to rely on rumor, claiming he never knew the man. Only when pressed even further does he reluctantly present the most basic facts about Jon Con that everyone already knew. And then he finishes everything by saying Jon Con is dead again. Damon seems to have a problem with this diplomatic mission and doesn't want it to succeed. Those are just the things he did. I know all that. What sort of man was he? Honest and honorable? Venal and grasping? Proud? Proud for a certainty, even arrogant. A faithful friend to Rhaegar, but prickly with others. Robert was his liege, but I've heard it said that Connington chafed at serving such a lord. Even then, Robert was known to be fond of wine and whores. No whores for Lord Jon, then? I could not say. Some men keep their whoring secret. Did he have a wife? A paramour? Sir Damon shrugged. Not that I ever heard. That was troubling too. Sir Aerys Oakheart had broken his vows for her, but it did not sound as if Jon Connington could be similarly swayed. Can I match such a man with words alone? So when pressed again, we see Damon still being difficult and still trying to undermine the diplomacy. Damon calls Jon Con proud, arrogant, and prickly. Doesn't Jon Con have any good qualities? We've met Jon Con after all. He's not that bad. But here's what's interesting. Why trash a man you believe to be dead? If Arianna is meeting an imposter, why not be balanced and accurate with his report on Jon Con? Arianna specifically asked if he was honest and honorable, and we've met Jon Con, and he does seem to be honest and honorable, and yet Damon's sand doesn't include this information. Now, despite Damon being a wall, Arianna does show a bit of cleverness and is able to extract some information from Damon. No whores, no wife, no paramour. Arianna's previous method for controlling men was with her sexuality, but as we saw with Balon's swan, her methods are useless against gay men. The princess lapsed into silence, all the while pondering what she would find at Journey's End. That night when they made camp, she crept into the tent she shared with Jane Ladybright and Elia Sand, and slipped the bit of parchment out of her sleeve to read the words again. To Prince Doran of House Martell, you will remember me, I pray. I knew your sister well, and was a leal servant of your good brother. I grieve for them as you do. I did not die, no more than did your sister's son. To save his life, we kept him hidden, but the time for hiding is done. A dragon has returned to Westeros to claim his birthright and seek vengeance for his father, and for the Princess Elia, his mother. In her name I turn to Dorne. Do not forsake us. Jon Connington, Lord of Griffin's Roost, hand of the true king. So in a parallel to Quentyn with a marriage contract kept in his boot, Arianna has a letter from Jon Con hidden in her sleeve. Now our story is filled with potentially fake letters, so we should be a bit careful with this one too. So in the Griffin Reborn chapter, Jon Con had told Haldon Halfmaester to write a letter to Doran mentioning the fact that his sister's son was alive and that he has come to claim his father's throne. Haldon had wanted to offer the Dornish something, either gold or lands or a marriage to either Aegon or Jon Con, but Jon Con refuses to offer anything. And during the conversation, Connington also laments not having dragons. And so in the letter Arianna has, Aegon is called Doran's sister's son. Additionally, it offers no marriage, land, or gold, but instead offers vengeance as a prize. It takes Jon Con's lamentation of no dragon and turns Aegon into that dragon. It also turns Aegon's claim of Rhaegar's throne into claiming his birthright. And so the appearance of all of these elements from the Griffin Reborn chapter does point to the fact that this letter is legitimate. In fact, it really shows how intelligent and savvy Haldon Halfmaester is. Jon Con had given him lemons to work with, and he makes a little lemonade with this letter. Keep in mind, Jon Con wanted the Dornish to fight for free, essentially, but Haldon makes it look like they're actually offering something. Vengeance. Aegon has no actual dragon, but Haldon keeps the letter ambiguous by calling Aegon the dragon. Does Aegon have a dragon? Will he eventually have a dragon? The Dornish are left to wonder. Or at least Arianna is. The most savvy change may be the claim of Rhaegar's throne being changed to Aegon's birthright. Let's keep in mind that for most people, Rhaegar never had a throne. He died before Aerys did. And baby Aegon was actually disinherited by Aerys. Aerys made Viserys' heir, and Viserys made Dany his heir. However, it's fairly apparent that Rhaegar was attempting to usurp his father, and so to some, Rhaegar may have already been king. But we have no idea on which side of the dispute the Dornish fell, that is, on Rhaegar's side, or on Aerys' side, or neither. This is a big, messy can of political worms, and may have even involved Rhaegar dumping Elia for Lyanna. Jon Con's line to claim Rhaegar's throne is simply dumb and tactless. Rhaegar's actions were controversial to say the least, and it's quite possible that Doran hates Rhaegar. Haldon's word choice that Aegon is reclaiming his birthright is a vast improvement. By deferring to birthright, he is discrediting the idea that Aerys and Viserys could choose their heirs, which would lead to Dany as queen. And by simply saying birthright, he is leaving out Rhaegar's controversial political actions. Aegon has birthright to the Iron Throne as Aerys' grandson ahead of Dany, and any controversy related to Rhaegar's coup can be safely set aside. Not to mention, Haldon quite rightly makes this letter about Elia. Elia is mentioned before Rhaegar. Aegon is described as Elia's son, and the letter closes with them turning to Dorne in Elia's name. Now on a different note, I do think it's quite funny that Quentyn was hiding a marriage agreement in his boot, while Arianna was hiding something that was purposely not a marriage agreement in her sleeve. Arianna read the letter thrice, then rolled it up and tucked it back into her sleeve. A dragon has returned to Westeros, but not the dragon my father was expecting. Nowhere in the words was there a mention of Daenerys Stormborn, nor of Prince Quentyn, her brother, who had been sent to seek the Dragon Queen. The princess remembered how her father had pressed the onyx Syvas piece into her palm, his voice hoarse and low as he confessed his plan. A long and perilous voyage with an uncertain welcome at its end, he had said. He has gone to bring back our heart's desire, vengeance, justice, fire and blood. So we know that the onyx Syvas piece that Doran places in Arianna's hand was a dragon. Onyx is of course black, so at the time it seemed that the black dragon was in reference to Dany's black dragon, Drogon. But now that scene seems to be being turned on its head. Arianna's new quest has nothing to do with Dany or her black dragon. Well, there happens to be another black dragon in our story, the black dragon of House Blackfyre. If Aegon is in fact a Blackfyre, then this adventure parallels Doran's scene where he places the Syvas piece in Arianna's hand. Aegon is being placed in her hands. Of course, the lack of Dany and Quentyn troubles Arianna. She was told that Dany's dragons are the plan, and yet here she's meeting with Aegon. Her perception of things is being turned on its head just as ours is. The black dragon is not Dany, the black dragon is Aegon. Now with regard to Quentyn, I'm a big believer that the Quentyn quest was never supposed to succeed. And one big reason I believe this is because Doran is supposed to be a subtle, careful planner who only plays games he thinks he can win. And yet in the Princess in the Tower chapter, we find out that Doran's plan is a long and perilous voyage with an uncertain welcome at its end. That line goes against everything we know about Doran, and here that line is repeated. The Quentyn quest's very nature is incongruous with Doran's nature, and here we have that highlighted again. Fire and blood was what Jon Connington, if indeed it was him, was offering as well. Or was it? He comes with sellswords, but no dragons, Prince Doran had told her the night the Raven came. The Golden Company is the best and largest of the free companies, but 10,000 mercenaries cannot hope to win the Seven Kingdoms. Elia's son, I would weep for joy if some part of my sister had survived, but what proof do we have that this is Aegon? His voice broke when he said that. Where are the dragons? He asked. Where is Daenerys? And Arianna knew he was really saying, where is my son? Now, quite strikingly, Doran seems to know more than what was in that letter. The letter says nothing of the Golden Company and is very ambiguous about dragons, yet Doran seems to know it's them and seems to know they don't have dragons. Now keep in mind, back in the Watcher chapter, Doran had spies and lice who didn't figure out what army was coming, nor if they had dragons. Doran was optimistic and said that dragons could be hidden in the holds of ships. Now, I can see other spies reporting that the Golden Company has arrived, but how can they prove a negative? How can they prove that the Golden Company doesn't have dragons? And why does Doran suddenly have this information with the arrival of Jon Con's letter? Logically speaking, it doesn't make any sense that Doran is just now finding out about Aegon and the lack of dragons. Keep in mind, back in the Watcher chapter, Doran claimed that Dany and her dragons were coming, while at the same time saying Arianna would soon have a task. But that task ends up being meeting Aegon. Had Dany and her dragons come, Arianna would have no task. So which was Doran expecting, Dany coming or Arianna having a task? That is, Aegon coming. The latter seems to be the case. After all, are we really supposed to believe that Doran's spies and lice couldn't figure out that it was the Golden Company in port and not Dany? They didn't see a single banner. They didn't see a single golden armlet. Not a single Volantine shipman spilled the beans and said it was Aegon and not Dany. The spies somehow figured out they were carrying elephants, but not that it was the Golden Company? That seems exceedingly unlikely, which means Doran has known for quite a while that the Golden Company is coming without Daenerys. Which means Doran again is feigning emotion. "Where are the dragons?" he asked. "Where is Daenerys?" And Arianna knew that he was really saying, "Where is my son?" Again, just in case we missed the melodrama, Arianna is there to spell it out for us. Which of course means this is probably a lie. Doran was not in fact expecting Dany, dragons, or Quentyn. And that's all for now. We'll see you guys in Arianna 1 Part 3.